So a roadmap for this introduction is, first and foremost, we're going to talk about the why and the what. Next, we're going to go into awareness and talk about the things that we never learned about our cycles and how we can begin to incorporate this knowledge into our everyday lives to live a life more in flow. I was experiencing extreme cramps that were just debilitating and paralyzing, and I was vomiting. I was on the bathroom floor, just unable to go on with my everyday life, and from the pain of it all. And I went to my doctor, to my gynecologist, and asking for help or direction, and what she told me was to basically go on hormonal birth control, and that did not seem in alignment with me, with what my desires were, and I felt like that would be a band-aid to what was going on in my body, because it didn't, as far as I knew, hormonal birth control was not a cure to anything, but rather direction of your hormones in a different way, directing your hormones in a different way that is not natural to our bodies. So I decided to go the natural route, the alternative route, and I dug very deep. I started to research in all kinds of modalities. I went to naturopaths, masseuses, Mercier therapists. I did a lot of work not only on my physical self, on nutrition and lifestyle, but also spiritually. I was digging very deep into my interior world to find answers and guidance as to how I could move forward and how I could move towards healing. And this journey was really profound and transformed my life in all aspects. And every clue, every hint that I received from my intuition and from something I read, every hint brought me closer and closer to living a life more at peace with my body. And in those times of suffering, I promised myself that if I found the answer, and when I found the answer to healing, that I would share it with whoever was needing the support and guidance, because I was digging very deep for this information, and I just wish somebody would sit me down and explain to me what was happening and help me. But what I realized along the way was that intuition was really a profound source of guidance throughout this whole healing process. And I would get these intuitive instincts as to what my next step was and where to look, and they would always be spot on. What is it about the moon that is incorporated into this work? Well, we live in a patriarchal culture, as you know, and this is really the metaphor for the masculine way of showing up in the world is the sun, and that is living in a 24-hour cycle. The male hormonal cycle changes over a course of 24 hours, and so does the sun. It rises and it sets, and it does the same cycle every single day. And the lunar model is actually metaphorical of the feminine, because it's ever-changing, ever-transformative, day by day, subtly, it's going from one phase to another, and we can mark it with 4 different phases, and that is the dark moon becoming the new moon, the waxing moon, the full moon, the waning moon, and all the way back to the beginning again. And month after month we complete this cycle, and the lunar cycle is 29.5 days long. The menstrual cycle is between 27 and 33. So our bodies are actually mimicking the process of the lunar cycle, and using the moon as a metaphor for our bodies really allows us to tune into how we're ever changing, how we're ever transformational beings. And we wouldn't look at the full moon and say, I wish you were the dark moon. It just doesn't work that way. We respect and allow and honor the processes of the moon, and just as we should be honoring the reality of our bodies. And we are taught to show up in one way. We're taught to just be as productive as possible every single day. We're taught to to always be showing up as the same person, when in reality so much is changing for us. in our bodies. Our hormones are changing, the position of our cervix is changing, our body temperature changes, the discharge changes. So many changes are actually physically occurring in our bodies. It doesn't make sense that we should expect ourselves to show up emotionally, physically, mentally the same every single day. So this is getting back to the knowledge, the ancient wisdom that our bodies hold and that we were never really taught along the way. And reclaiming this at this time is so integral, I believe, to moving forward as empowered women, as the leaders that we are becoming, that we are creating a new paradigm for the earth and for our communities. So the first step is really to get in tune with our own bodies, our own truth, and from there, and only from there, can we create the world that we want to see, and in harmony with nature, in harmony with ourselves, and really allowing the full spectrum of the feminine to thrive and to flourish. So, with all that said, intuition is the primary source of guidance for you. So I like to start with this reminder, because no matter what I'm going to say about the cycle, it's no one size fits all. It's always going to be different for you and how you experience it. Every single person's cycle is different, and every cycle month to month you're going to experience differently. And so first and foremost, your intuition is always correct, and whatever is happening in your body is correct, because if whether you're experiencing pain, emotional or physical, or discomfort, irregular, or whatever you're experiencing is a signal from your body to you, telling you that something is off. And we should acknowledge these signals and even become grateful for them, because they are really telling us how they're giving us a reminder to awaken into our bodies, to come home to our bodies, and to help support her and create a harmonious flowing relationship with her well-being. The cycle works so that if one part, one element, one phase of your cycle is off kilter, then most likely you're going to be feeling the effects in other areas of your month. So, for example, if you're having immense premenstrual syndrome, that might be impacted by something else going on in your follicular phase. And so we're thinking of this as a whole cycle, and this is a holistic approach. So you want to be aware of what elements may be in another phase other than the one you're expecting it to be. Just be open. So be open to hearing how the checks and balances work, and where your instinct says, maybe I could use some more support, maybe I could support myself better in that particular area. So, as we use the moon as a metaphor, the menstrual phase is the new moon. It's the movement from the dark moon to the new moon. And from there we move to the waxing moon, and this is representative of the follicular phase. We gain more light comes back into our bodies. And from there we move to the full moon, when we're in full luminosity, and in our inner realm. When our inner realm is in full luminosity, that's our ovulatory phase. And then we move back towards the waning moon again, back towards the dark. We move into the luteal phase, and from there all the way back to the new moon. So, the menstrual phase, why is that indicative of the dark moon, of the new moon? So we're really straddling the line between dark and new moon in the menstrual phase, because we are letting go of the previous cycle. We are going into our darkness, into our shadow, and seeing what we're willing to let go with the previous cycle. As our menstrual cycle begins, we are starting a rebirth. We're shedding our lining, letting go, right? And beginning a rebirth for our cycle ahead. At this time, just like the dark moon, the veil between worlds is said to be the thinnest. So we have an extremely close connection to our intuition during this time. And we might not even know that because we're too busy trying to push past it, pretend we're not having our periods, pretend that everything is okay, we're medicating, we're just bypassing this period altogether. And in reality, this is a really treasure-filled time to connect with your intuition. And how we do that is we just make space. So we consider this like a temple time, a very sacred time where we're shedding and letting go. Our body is going through an intense process of release and rebirth. And really allowing our bodies this space to surrender can have the biggest impact in your cycle at large. So taking day one, and day one is considered to be the first day of your bleeding. So taking day one, taking time out on your day one to get in tune with your intuition, to get into a meditative space, to listen to what it is that your body is wanting to let go of and what it is wanting to call in. With this deep meditative state of being that we cultivated, then we create an intention, and that intention becomes the foundation of our follicular phase and our action steps. So really having that tied in, rooted place of intention carries us through the months. So the menstrual phase, if we hold it sacred, if we allow ourselves the time to replenish that we're due, that we're due for the natural reason that we're bleeding individuals. So allowing ourselves the time to renew and repair can help us make an easier transition into the rest of our cycle. Giving ourselves that time to relax gives us that new rebirth feeling, that rising energy feeling that is synonymous with the waxing moon and the follicular phase. So as we shed our lining, we're beginning the process anew, and we're starting to create the egg that is going to be fertile in our ovulatory phase. The maturation of our follicles is occurring now, and this accompanies a sense of rising energy. Our estrogen is rising, and we start to feel like a new rebirth, a new ability, a more focus, more mental clarity, and we feel like we're ready to spring into action, right? This is our inner springtime. So we start to feel like we're ready to spring into action, and we're excited to begin new projects, and our productivity is really tied with this phase because we have a can-do attitude. We want to check things off our list. We want the feeling of accomplishment and achievement, and also with our intention that we set in our menstrual phase. Follicular phase is when we start to take action, take steps on those intentions. We make a list, a checklist or crossing it off, however you want to do it. But we start to feel really good when we can start to take those action steps. And direction is really important during this phase. So the shadow side of that can be that we feel frustration when our productivity isn't flowing. And we might notice that we have some resistance, some blockages around moving forward, around forward motion. And that is a really interesting time to reflect on that and to just get in touch with what our relationship with our productivity looks like. So as we move, and we're also desiring adventure. We're also designed to get out again. After we went into that hibernation temple mode, we're desiring to come out of it and go see the world again, communicate. This all crescendos with the full moon phase, the ovulatory phase, which is the crescendo of the cycle. It's when the egg is mature and ready to be fertilized. It is fertile. We're feeling a sense of inner summer. Like the full moon, we're in our full luminosity. We feel like we can take over the world. We're feeling confident and sensual and sexual, and our communication skills are actually really good during the ovulatory phase. I am creating this at the brink of my ovulatory phase myself because I wanted to be able to have a sense of flow and a sense of confidence in my words, and I can really feel the difference between today and a few days ago in the follicular phase, for example, because now I'm feeling that sense of fruition, the sense of that I put all of the action steps. I had the intention set this month. I put the action steps I took the action steps, and here I am in my full moon phase, really standing in and owning what I've been creating and what I've been working on and sharing, and feeling a sense of connection, feeling an ease with my words. So the ovulatory phase, again, is when we're fertile. It's really, one day is actually the event of ovulation, 24 hours. But we are fertile there's about a 6-day window. So just because the actual process is happening within a 24-hour phase, we tend to think of it as about a week long, just as each phase is about 7 days long, and you'll notice how it's different for you personally. So in the ovulatory phase, we tend to think of it as about a 7-day window, longer, give or take. And this is none of this is like finite, because it really always depends on you and how your body reacts to the hormones that are changing. And you might find that from month to month, again, there's differences, but there's still some consistency that you can look for and that you can feel rooted in. And so again, back to ovulatory phase. It's our inner summer. We're desiring to go back into the world, to go fully into the world, to be seen, to mingle, to create our creativity. If we're not using that fertile time to create another life, we still have that creative energy in us. So you can see how we're feeling this robust sense of creativity and how that makes sense with our biology. So after this phase, we move into the luteal phase, which is the transition and back down into this descent of the temple space. So we are shifting gears again. This is typically known as the premenstrual phase, associated heavily with premenstrual syndrome. But learning to be in harmony with this change is when the estrogen begins to fall again and progesterone rises. Learning to get back in tune, or getting in tune in the first place, with the potency of this time as a time of reflection, of the time of going back within and reflecting on how our intentions unfolded, how our actions unfolded, how our creativity unfolded in this previous month, and using this as a time of reflection to it's as if we have a natural filtration process. So you may notice that things in this phase that normally wouldn't bother you become a really big deal, right? So, for example, something mundane might trip you up in a way that it wouldn't at other times in your cycle. And that is an indication, it's your filtration process saying it wants to go back into the profound, it wants to go deep again, and it doesn't want to be caught up on mundane tasks. However, you are feeling this need to clear the space and get ready to go into the temple again, to just let go of what has been bothering you, to acknowledge it, to hear the voice of your inner bitch and your inner critic, because it's louder now than at any other time. And just to really to allow that voice its space, to write it down. Thank you for your input and your information. And I will be reflecting on this, but not to let it drag you or be too attached to what is revealed during this phase. So then we move back into the temple, and you see we go back into the dark, and we enter that place of stillness, of rebirth once again. So, as we can see, that there's a time for everything. There's the time when we're starting this resurgence all over again, just as the seasons, just as we have fallen out of respect for the seasons in our society, and we expect to have a summer fruit in the middle of winter, and we expect to just operate at the same frequency all year long. Our inner world has the same cyclical pattern, and we have been pillaging and plundering her resources and expecting her to just show full force 24/7, and it's just not realistic, and it's not honoring the feminine. It's not honoring the radiance that can result when we have cultivated a really profound relationship with our ebbs and our flows, with our natural inner harmony. Getting in the flow and getting used to respecting your own timetable will really shift things for you.